Representation doesn't matter, but it also does. But when? Let's talk about what makes a character really connect with the audience. Salam, my name is Mustafa. I am a professional game developer. I am the solo developer and the founder of my studio, Suburb Path. In the past, I worked at Treyarch during development of Black Ops 4. I also worked at Zwift on their indoor cycling game. Captain America Brave New World is being marketed around race rather than character depth. The Disney Plus miniseries Falcon and the Winter Soldier focused on Sam Wilson's race instead of developing him as a strong character lead. Marketing pushed heavily on promoting Sam Wilson's race as the core focus of the film rather than his character or journey. For example, they published a children's book, A Hero Looks Like You, which reinforces the idea that representation is the movie's main selling point. This is emotional manipulating, telling audiences their most important trait is their race rather than their character. In this video, I'm going to cover why Sam Wilson isn't being accepted by the audience as the new Captain America, why representation in media isn't as impactful as they say it is, how representation is impactful, and what actually makes a character resonate with an audience. During the build-up to this movie, I've been seeing so many people online saying that Steve Rogers is Captain America, and those people are missing the real issue as to what's the problem with Sam Wilson being Captain America in the MCU. These are the same knuckleheads online who have been saying Peter Parker is Spider-Man and Miles Morales is Miles Morales a couple of years ago online. The issue isn't whether mantles can be passed down or not. The issue is whether the mantle is being passed down well. The problem isn't that Sam Wilson took the mantle, the problem is how he took it without a strong character foundation. Some mantle changes just don't work because the original character is too deeply ingrained in pop culture. Bruce Wayne is Batman, Clark Kent is Superman. But for other heroes, mantles can be passed down if done well. DC seems to do this much better than Marvel. Jon Stewart as Green Lantern worked really well. Wally West replacing Barry Allen worked really well. Jaime Reyes as Blue Beetle is an example where the mantle change actually made the character much better. The real problem with Sam Wilson in the MCU is that he has no depth. He is still a side character. They didn't build him up properly as a lead before making him Captain America. They just expected the Shield to do the heavy lifting. Greg Owens did a great video covering this topic. I'm going to leave a link to his video so you can check it out yourself. But to summarize what he says, Sam Wilson has no theme to him. In all the movies with Steve Rogers, his theme is what makes a hero, and his character answers that question. In all the movies that Iron Man is in, Tony Stark's character's theme is, am I good enough? He's overcoming imposter syndrome. And his character answers that question every time the movie is about him. If they wanted the mantle change to work, they needed to develop Sam as a lead by giving him a relatable theme, not just hand him the title. In trying to make Sam into Captain America, they stripped away what made him Sam Wilson. Instead of building on what made Sam likable, his charisma and humor as the Falcon, they threw a shield in his hands, made him serious, had a few characters question as whether he's good enough because he's black, and then expected that to be enough for the audience. It wasn't. That's why the mantle change doesn't resonate with the audience. So how does representation impact an audience? People will say that representation is important, but the impact is often misunderstood. Positive representation has a very minor impact. Seeing someone as the same background as you can be cool, but it's not life-changing. A well-written character will be inspiring regardless of their race, gender, or background. Positive representation is nice to have, but it's not a must-have. Now, negative representation actually has a strong impact. Consistently portraying a group in a negative way just reinforces stereotypes and prejudices. Let me put it this way. A negative representation will do more bad than a positive representation will do good. As an Arab and a Muslim, I have experienced this firsthand. Many people I've encountered had lots of misconceptions of both my race and my religion. And these misconceptions are often reinforced by the negative tropes that are in media. This isn't just my opinion, this is backed by research. In the documentary Real Bad Arabs, Dr. Sut Jali analyzed 1,000 films that were produced between the year 1896 and the year 2000, featuring Arab and Muslim characters. Of these 1,000 films, 936 of those films portrayed Arabs and Muslims negatively. And this is where representation has the most impact, when it fuels real-world biases and discrimination. So if representation and identity doesn't make a character relatable, what does? Their personality, their temperament, their values, their morals, their actions, their growth, not their superficial traits. Superficial traits are secondary. Traits like skin color, gender, and nationality can add depth, but they don't define relatability. A well-written character resonates with audiences because of their internal journey, not their identity. Universal traits make them relatable to a wide audience. All of us can relate to actions, thoughts, emotions, goals, experiences. A character struggling with loss, ambition, redemption, self-doubt, or purpose resonate across cultures and backgrounds. A great character taps into shared human experiences, making them meaningful to anyone, not just those who look like them. A character's depth and emotional weight matter more than their race. People connect with characters based on their struggles and personal growth. A character who overcomes adversity, makes tough decisions, or experiences meaningful change is universally relatable, regardless of their background. In the early 2000s, there was a very popular show called Lost. This show had a large cast of characters stuck on an island, and the plot made no sense at all. One of the characters, Sayed, or how they pronounce it, Saeed, was one of the first positive Iraqi characters I saw in mainstream media. He was competent, skilled, and likable, which stood out to me because I'm also Iraqi. I thought it was really cool because Iraqis are usually portrayed as villains in Western media. But once the characters all got off the island, I stopped relating to him. Despite being portrayed as a Muslim, his actions clashed with my values because he engaged in things that are haram, which means forbidden in Islam. His actions and values have more weight than his race and how I connect with him. Even though we're both Muslim and Iraqi, I became emotionally disconnected with his character because of his actions and his values differed from mine. Goku from Dragon Ball is one of the most beloved characters in anime. The reason why he's relatable isn't because he's a Saiyan, has light skin, or wild hair. Those are just surface traits. People connect with him because of his personality, determination, and endless pursuit of self-improvement. His desire to grow stronger is something anyone can relate to, whether in sports, work, or personal goals. He constantly pushes himself to overcome bigger and greater challenges. His pure-hearted nature and kindness make him easy to root for. Goku proves that a great character doesn't need to represent a specific demographic to be universally loved. This is what the media should aim for. Strong characters whose internal traits make them relatable to everyone. But when representation is handled poorly, it feels hollow and forced. In my last video, I got a very lengthy comment, and part of it said the following. All representation should have a purpose. If something is poorly written, the final product won't feel authentic and will come across as forced. I agree and disagree with this. I agree that forced representation is bad. If a character is only defined by their identity, then they come across as shallow and forced. If a character is only defined by their identity, then they come across as shallow, empty, and forgettable. But I disagree that representation needs a specific purpose for it to be included. If a creative wants to make a character that has a certain race, ethnicity, gender, or whatever, then they are allowed to do so. They don't need a specific reason for that. As long as the character is well developed and has a meaningful story, that's all that matters. The problem isn't the representation. The problem is when the representation becomes the entire character. In my narrative-driven tower defense game, Nexus Defenders, I have 3 human characters who serve as the boss fights. My goal was to make them look cool and distinct. One of the characters is a black man. Another character is a woman. I didn't have a specific reason for this, I just wanted them to look different from each other and visually interesting. In retrospect, I could have made some more improvements to better match their visuals with their personalities, but the point still stands. I didn't need a deeper reason for them to have a certain race, gender, or background. The problem is when their race, gender, or background becomes their entire character. When a character exists purely for their race, gender, or identity, then they are a token character. They feel like they were added to check a box off a checklist rather than to have actual story. This type of forced representation doesn't connect with people in a positive way. It feels unnatural and it stands out in a very bad way. A character should have depth beyond their identity. The story should focus on their journey, their choices, their struggles, their personality, not just their demographic background. Representation should be incidental. It shouldn't be the defining characteristic of that character because token characters feel hollow. I've been seeing online a misconception that there needs to be gatekeeping as to who's allowed to make which characters. Some claim that only certain people should write or portray certain characters, such as only black writers should write black characters, only women should write female characters, only the people of this demographic can voice act a character of the same demographic. This is completely false. Good writers can create compelling characters outside their own experiences. So if this logic were true, then only criminals who perform heinous acts are allowed to write about characters who perform heinous acts. And Phil Lamar shouldn't be the voice of Samurai Jack because he's not Asian. Where do we draw the line with gatekeeping? Good storytelling isn't about identity, it's about understanding human struggles. However, respecting culture and history is important. If creatives are writing about a culture that they're unfamiliar with, then they should do the research or get proper consulting experts. They need to avoid lazy mistakes like mixing Chinese architecture within feudal Japan. Many of the greatest writers in history created characters nothing like themselves. Shakespeare wrote iconic female characters. J.R.R. Tolkien created entire cultures and even invented his own Elvish language. The problem isn't who creates the character, it's whether the character is written well. At the end of the day, great storytelling is what really matters. When a corporation like Disney tells you that the character's gender, race, ethnicity are their most important traits, then they are also telling you that your superficial traits are your most important traits. This reinforces division rather than unity because this focuses on our superficial traits as our major differences. We can acknowledge our differences, this is fine. But what really connects us together is our shared values, our morals, our human experiences. Great stories aren't about identity politics. They're about compelling characters with real depth. That's what makes them resonate with audiences across the world. Storytelling is an important topic to me. Humans have an innate connection with storytelling. This is why religious doctrines like the Quran and the Bible are basically books full of many stories. And for those of you who don't care for religion, there are stories like Aesop's fables that share morals and values through the power of storytelling. Storytelling is one of the most important things to humans. And when we narrow down storytelling to our race and superficial traits, then we're killing storytelling. If you got this far in the video, please let me know in the comments if you agree or disagree with me. Please rate the video thumbs up or thumbs down. Subscribe to the channel and make sure you hit the notification bell so you get those notifications. I appreciate you getting this far. Thank you. Take care. Salam.